Good morning on this beautiful Sunday.
Good morning.
My name is Denise Gunn, and I would like to welcome all of you here today. I use the pronouns she and her. Welcome to everyone, but especially to our guests. If this is your first time or your 100th time, we are so glad that you are here. If you would like to receive any communication about our church, please complete the guest cards that are found on the credenza. Out front, you may return these to the greeters, you may leave them on the credenza, or you may place them in the offering basket when it is passed around. We do not have a written order of service, but you each have been provided a document with information about us, as well as a form for any joys and sorrows you may want to share. Please place them into the offering basket for collection, and they will be read later in the service. At this time, we will have music as we prepare for our service today. Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Reverend Dr. David Breeden, entitled Into the Circle. We gather into this circle of care to dream, to envision, to embody and achieve the compassion we dream, the justice we envision, the dignity of each in an ever-growing circle of love and justice. At this time, I would like to invite you to rise and join me in reciting our covenant if you are willing and able. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You may be seated.
Well, actually, you can stay standing.
Oh, excuse me, stay standing.
For our opening hymn, number 360 in your hymnal, Here We Have Gathered. you may be seated. And this morning, I have a little story illustration to share with you, and I have a helper. If Raylan would come up here for me, please. Raylan, can you tell the folks what this is and how it works?
This is a windmill, and when it spins, sometimes it lifts water, and when you have plants, sometimes if it spins strong enough, the water will lift up and hit the plants, it'll help them grow, but you don't want it going too fast or the water might cause a flood.
Oh. And when these things spin around, what do they catch?
They catch the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan. So, talking about a church and how it works is a little bit like talking about how a windmill works, all right? It spins around and reaches up into the sky and into the universe and grabs the voices and the energy that is swirling around above us. And then it goes deep down into the ground, into our past, into our history, and brings up life-sustaining water. Just like a church. We listen to the voices and the energy around us, and we live also from deep within our past and our history. So thank you, Raylan, for helping me share that story with everyone today.
You're welcome.
And I wanted to tell about that today because today is a day when we are going to be remembering our past and also inviting new people to join our circle. And so we are widening our circle today with new members. And I believe I'm going to have some help from the membership committee on this. Is that right? Excellent. It's always a special day when we invite new people into our community, and we know that they have made a commitment to be with us and to offer their gifts and their tremendous ideas and support to what we're trying to do here in becoming an important place for people in their lives. And we have a covenant that we share with one another on this special occasion, and the words will all be printed up there, as well as the names of the people I see. So, yes, do you want me to call them? Okay. So, as I call your name, please come forward. Helene Clendenin. She's not here. That always happens with the first one. Daniel Cobb. Tim Kingston, Barbara Wright, and Bill Sloan, who actually joined before, but he was unable to attend the ceremony that time, so we want to make sure that he gets to be part of this ceremony.
Take my time.
Absolutely. Make a grand entrance. So the first part are the words for the congregation to say. Would you all like to stand as your body or spirit allow? I think it's an important time. We warmly welcome you into membership. We are glad you have chosen to join us. We know that the ideas, energies, resources, and commitments which each of you bring will greatly enrich our vibrant and growing community. And now our new members.
They celebrate their membership with the Unitarian Universalist Church, Pensacola, bring to the community our strengths, our limits, and our unique desires. We ask you for a place of love and encouragement as we find our way among you. We are glad to be here.
All of us. Oh, sorry. We value honesty, direct speaking, and courtesy in our conflict, courage in our speech, integrity in our action. We hold one another accountable to our very best intentions. May we be true to ourselves, true to each other, and true to the vision of the beloved community we are ever becoming. Now we can clap. And how appropriate to get these Mardi Gras beads during Mardi Gras. Now you're all decked out and ready for a parade. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome. And now, because I don't trust myself, I'm looking for my order of service. It's time to sing the children out. Is that correct? Yes. And so now we will sing our children on to their activities, and I hope you all have an absolutely fabulous time today. And afterwards, if you want to come and tell me what you did, I'd love to hear about it. In peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
And now is the time in our service where we pass our collection baskets and we gather offerings. Our congregation is fully supported by members, guests, and friends. Also, you may place your joy and sorrow cards into the offering baskets so that they can be read. Thank you.
Yay! Cheers. Okay, if you're wondering why we're doing that, it's because we are kicking off the annual budget drive, and that's all about here comes the sun, isn't it? It's about here comes the good stuff when you give from your deep down in your heart to help this church thrive and reach up into the sky and reach down into the past and bring everything we need forward so that we can keep this church thriving and growing and alive, and that takes money, and I'm told that nobody here likes to talk about that. You guys talk about money at home, right? I mean, I talk about it a lot. I talk about it with my friends. Oh my gosh, the power bill is going up. What if my car breaks down? They cost so much now. I wish I could help my daughter buy a house, but now the mortgage rates are going up. It's a hard time. And we've been through 2 years of HELL, you know? And people are talking all around the country, all around, you know, the people I hear about what will church be like post-pandemic or post-COVID. Well, I don't know that there's going to be a post-COVID. I think things have changed, and I think we're going to live with changes. And nobody likes that very much, but sometimes good things come out of those changes. And one of the good things that I think is going to come out of this is that we have decided that it's really important to reach the people who cannot be in the seats with us on Sunday morning. And we've heard that they would prefer to be able to tune in and be with us at this time rather than watch the video later, which, you know, many of us are like, oh, I'll do that later, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do that. And then it's like a week later, and then there's 2 to watch. So we're investigating how we can actually have some top-notch equipment in here to live stream and join the upscale folks in the world who are all together in different places on Sunday morning at this time. So we want high quality audio and other equipment that we need to record and live stream and reach everyone in our area and beyond. And we know that we've been doing that, even with our maybe not so high-tech attempts. And thank you so much to Laura and Bill and Jack over here in the sound room. And those are the people I'm looking at right now, and I know there's others. And I know that I missed my engineer husband so much. He passed away, it's 8 years now, who would have been able to help me through all that technology. But instead, my 11-year-old grandson helped me, so hey. We want to strengthen and our building and grounds, which you all worked so hard to purchase and create this wonderful spiritual home 25 years ago. 25 years ago. I remember, you don't know that because you didn't know me then, but I remember Scott Street. I was a youth advisor and a religious educator in those days, and I used to come to BeachCon here in Pensacola and hang out on the beach with all the youth from the Pensacola church, and we slept on the floor at the place on Scott Street, and I was really happy when I watched you transform this beautiful place into this church. And we want to build our beloved community, and this is what they wrote: with continued ministry from Rev Alice. I don't like to talk about myself, but I'd sure like to stay with you all, okay? And a return to social justice efforts and increased adult exploration and fellowship activities. And some of us met yesterday and we talked about how we want to get stronger and more integrated and keep this place going and growing and healthy and thriving. So I believe that Aaron is going to come up and tell you a little bit more about it, but I just wanted to do the rah-rah part because I've heard that Unitarian Universalists would rather talk about sex than money.
Is this on? Yeah.
You have to press that on the bottom.
I just wanted to come up real quick. Last year, during the pandemic, we introduced the idea of doing pledging online, which actually worked really well, so we're doing it again. There is a member section on the website that requires a password. And you probably been sent this password a couple of times, but if you're like me, that email is not there when you need it. So please either email me or Lori or see me after the service. Lori's back there. And I'll write it down on a sticky note for you because you do need that password to get into the member section. And then the left menu, it says 2022-23 pledge drive. And then you have all the things you need, the proposed budget, FAQs for pledging, and there is an online pledge form you can go to. There is also a pledge form you can print out. And if you receive the light and hard copy because you are not an emailer, you will have gotten a packet. Lori's waving at me about the postmark. We've mailed out packets of all the information with the pledge form to people who get the light by hard copy, and Lori mailed out postcards that have how to get to the website that you need to. So you should be getting that in the mail. But we do have packets available here, and of course you can always contact one of us if you have lost track of everything I just said. Please don't let there be an obstacle to you giving us money next year. We will be more than happy to help you do that. So always come to us with any questions about any of it, the budget. There is a summary if you just want the summary. There is detail if you want the detail. And of course we can answer any questions you have. Okay. Did I cover everything, Lori? I'm just shooting from the hip here.
The little card that many people got today with the sunshine on it, the password is on the back.
Oh, okay, great. All right. Well, thanks for that. Everything's taken care of, and I didn't even know it. So yeah, look inside your little folder there, and you'll have everything you need. Okay. I'm going to take over the
Now is an important time in our service that we share joys and sorrows, something that we all experience at different times. And Reverend Alice is going to light the candles to recognize each joy and sorrow that was provided. And I would like to kick it off with a joy to recognize all the new members that we have and seeing a light on the horizon, and our church is growing, and it's just wonderful to have everyone here and have the new members. Another joy is from Patty Underwood. Patty said there were 100 pounds of food for manna that were brought in and delivered, and she would like to thank everyone. If anyone is aware of someone in Virginia, Arlington, Virginia, Hugh Ed Turner submitted this and needs to speak with someone, with a friend in Arlington, Virginia. There's Hugh Ed. His niece has been out of touch with her mother for 3 weeks, and so if you know anyone, please contact Hugh Ed. The next is a sorrow and a joy for member Monty Montcastle. This past week brought news of at least 2 long-term, very active and resourceful members. Professor William Monty Montcastle, who has been living in assisted care facilities for some time, is now being served under hospice care. However, this is very good news, as he will now have a much more functional hospital bed, as well as a wheelchair and other very positive, helpful services for himself and his family. Monty was professor of religion at UWF and author of notable books and papers. We have the passing of member Art de Tonnencourt, who has been president of our former church, PUUF, at least once, and has been a leader in all areas for many years. He was a military aviator and trainer of aviators, and actually, if I'm reading this correctly, trained all of the original astronauts. And he mentored them and many for years. His connections benefited the work of our congregation. His obituary is in the Pensacola News Journal. And for all those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts and are unspoken, we light one final candle. I would like to read to you It Matters What We Believe by Sophia Lyon Voss. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life.
Thank you, Denise. That reading by Sophia Voss, Sophia Voss was a Unitarian Universalist religious educator. She was ordained at age 81, I believe, somewhere in her 80s. And she is responsible for a huge amount of curriculum and religious education that folks my age grew up on in our Unitarian Universalist churches. And it was from the stories and the curriculum that she helped create and edit and bring things together that a lot of us gained a sense of who we are and what this association, this Unitarian Universalist Association, means to us, and how it helps us make our way through the world and deal with disappointments and times like we're going through right now. And my hope always for young people is that when they come into our churches, they are exposed to that kind of religious education. One of the things that we say in religious education is that everything that happens in the church is the curriculum. So what does that mean? Does somebody want to give me an idea of what that means?
That we learn from everything?
From everything. From the fellowshipping? Yes, in here. And what about when they walk in the door, in the front door? What happens then? What do they learn then? They went a welcome, exactly. When they walk in the door and somebody smiles at them and makes them feel welcome and worthwhile, then that is a part of the faith that we give our young people, that they grow up with. Laura Keith King and I were talking a little bit about that yesterday. She grew up in a loving embrace in the Congregational Church and also Unitarian. And so we have a sense of what it means to grow up in a place that makes you feel valid, valuable, and important, which is our first principle, right? In children's language, they say each and every person is important, and we say each and every person has inherent worth and dignity. Now, a principle is different from a law because a principle is some kind of internal guidance. It's something you have to think about a little bit. A law is the law. You will be dismissed when the bell rings. You know when you're in the 6th grade that you don't get to just get up and walk out of class whenever you want, right? You will leave when the bell rings. Now that shows respect for the teacher, but it's a law. It's a rule. There are other ways that we show respect for the teacher, ways that we have to kind of think about and interpret. So our principles are, they're principles. They are things that we have to think about and interpret. They're not laws that tell us what to do. There's no consequence for breaking a principle. But they guide us internally and help us make decisions about the right way to live in the world and how to treat people. Some years ago, I took a course at Meadville Lombard, our Unitarian Universalist School of Theology. It's actually where I graduated, but then later I went back and was considering the Doctor of Ministry degree, and then they stopped having that degree, but I'd taken 3 or 4 courses along the way, and I'm glad I did. And one of them was with Reverend Bill Murray, and you may have read some of his books. He wrote Reason and Reverence, Religious Humanism for the 21st Century, was released in 2006. He wrote A Faith for All Seasons, Liberal Religion and the Crisis of Life, and Becoming More Fully Human, Religious Humanism as a Way of Life. And Bill died in 2017. He was a really dear man. He was 85 years old. I took the course because of its relevance to ministry in the South, because so many of our congregations were started as humanist congregations, a lot of them through the fellowship movement, which was started by the American Unitarian Association before we were Unitarian Universalists. And somewhere in here I wrote down what a fellowship was, but it was 10 people who agreed with the tenets of Unitarian Universalism and agreed to support the association. And they popped up mostly around university towns. So when I was young, very young, I attended a Unitarian Universalist church, Unitarian, back then in San Diego. And it had about 800 members. It was a huge church. Had a huge Sunday school program. We had, it was like a classroom, a school-sized classroom for each grade. So I went all the way through until junior high with the same group of friends in the church, and my parents were friends with those people. And so it's a huge way to develop your faith and your sense of who you are. It was a really lovely church. And then I moved to South America, and then I moved to Birmingham, Alabama when I was in high school. And once again, there was the Unitarian Church in Birmingham, where I was a youth in the youth group. Another formative time in my life. And then as a young adult, I moved to Tuscaloosa and attended the fellowship in Tuscaloosa, which was much different than anything I had ever known before. It was a lecture, a discussion, and coffee. Does that sound familiar? And then some of us who had some exposure to other UU congregations decided, well, maybe we could sing a hymn or two. Maybe we could start with a song and end with a song and then have a conversation and then have coffee. So it kind of progressed like that. We even cleaned out a room upstairs in this Hillel house on campus to make a space for children and to start a religious education program. So I've been in a lot of different UU settings and done a lot of different things to help try to make us thrive and grow. And I left that church just as they were about to move into their own building. So during those years, they purchased property like you did here and built a church. And they struggle still sometimes. Everybody is struggling right now. But they grew, they changed, they grew, and they're a solid group of people that inspire love and justice within themselves and in their community. So you may remember some years ago a big controversy about language of reverence. Does that ring a bell with anybody? No? Huh. So Bill Sinkford, who you might know, was our UUA president at one time, he got in a lot of trouble after he was misquoted by the Fort Worth Star-Telegram talking about language of reverence and how Unitarians and Universalists or Unitarian Universalists needed a language of reverence, and people thought that he was trying to send us back to talk about God. And a lot of people didn't want us to be doing that. And then, but Sinkford was inspired to talk about this language of reverence after hearing a talk from Reverend David Bombaugh, who was one of my professors and a colleague. I served on some committees with him when I was in school at Meadville Lombard. At our General Assembly in 2004, Reverend David Bombaugh was then Associate Minister and Director of Field Education at Meadville Lombard, and Reverend Kendall Gibbons, who you may have heard of. She was Senior Minister at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis, Minnesota, two of our stellar humanist ministers. And they gave a presentation entitled Toward a Humanist Language of Reverence to an overflowing crowd at one of the huge buildings, rooms of the convention center there. And Reverend Bombaugh argued that reverence is a vocabulary that talks about our place in this wonderful, awesome, dangerous, beautiful world. Is that how it feels to you now? On my way here, listening to NPR and knowing how close it seems that we are to Russian invasion of Ukraine and throwing us back to a time we hoped was gone forever, maybe. I think, things will always be different, but it's certainly stirring up a lot of anxiety and fear and sadness to think about that right now. I think Reverend Boy gave us lots of images, vivid images of the ways that the world is a scary and sad place right now when he spoke last week. So I don't need to go through the list again. But a language of reverence helps us find ways to appreciate what is beautiful about the world and what brings us hope, and a faith that we grow up with that gives us a faith in the people that we are with and the people that we love and the communities that we belong to. That's important to us at a time like this also. We need one another. We need one another when we mourn and when we celebrate. We need community. We need this church. We need one another, and we need to be a presence in the community. Bill Kaplinger is all fired up about how we are so important and we have such an important message, and we're going to get out in this world and we're going to continue to speak our truth and our justice to the community. We're doing it with Just Pensacola. We're doing it with ways that we collect for people. And so we talk a lot about interdependence. And when we want to emphasize being stewards of the earth is when we usually talk about that, and we probably can't possibly emphasize that enough, but another way to talk about interdependence is the way in which people are in relationship with one another. Not only are we stewards of the material and physical things, we're also accountable for the quality of our relationships. Relationships with people that we know, people that we don't know. Right now, I'm mostly talking about the people that we know because we're widening our circle, welcoming new members. We're thinking about how we thrive and grow in this place we are. And we're drawn together by certain values and principles. What I've observed is that sometimes these values and principles, which start out as abstract concepts when we speak of them or articulate them, become so concrete that we forget that they have interpretive value. And when that happens, and because we're connected in an invisible web, we begin to feel some tension on the web. Well, there's always some tension on a web because, oddly enough, that's what holds it together. Too much tension, and it tears apart, though. But not enough tension, and the bottom drops out. So some tension is okay. It's how we deal with the tension that matters. And there's a lot of tension in all of our webs right now. And we're all struggling to figure out how to deal with the tension so the bottom doesn't drop out and we don't pull apart. Sometimes there's tension around our first principle, the one that says that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That's one that we can make so concrete we think it's a rule and then we don't exactly understand it. We think it means anybody can do whatever they want, but because they have inherent worth and dignity, we have to live with it, accept it, and value them. I see somebody shaking their head. You're right. No. Sometimes, and we talk about the loving thing to do, is to hold people accountable for their actions. And so, valuing inherent worth and dignity in a person means that you know deep down inside they can be the good, loving, compassionate, caring people that we want them to be. And that's what a principle is. It's a guiding light for us. And that's one of the many principles that guides us. And I knew that it was going to be a busy day with lots going on, and those are the few things that I really wanted to say today, although I have several more pages I'm going to leave for next time, because it's almost been an hour that we've been here. And so I just tried to think through the thoughts that I was thinking while I was writing my sermon to give you today, and those were the thoughts on the very top of my head that I wanted to come here with and share with you today. Because what I'm feeling with the tension around us is how important this community is to all of us. You know, another thing I heard on NPR yesterday on my way here was a talk about loneliness. And there were lots, I think 16% of our country, I can't get the numbers right. Anyway, a lot of, I could look real fast and find it, but a lot of the deaths from COVID were people over 65, even though that's not a large population. Maybe that's what it was. 85% of the deaths of COVID were people over 65, even though that's only 16% of the population. But another possible factor is loneliness. And loneliness has the same effect on us, our physiology, and our health as smoking 3 cigarettes a day. So loneliness is something serious to pay attention to. And one of the things that shut down and caused people to be lonely during the pandemic was faith communities. And so I'm bringing that up to remind us that there aren't a lot of places where us old folks can go and feel valued and important and feel that we have a place to contribute. But there's a lot of people over 65 in this church that are valuable, and we couldn't live without them. So let us be all we need to be sure that we are a web that sustains and nurtures and promotes the justice, the compassion that we truly want to be a part of in this world. May it be so. And our closing song is one that Kate and Laura are going to sing for us today.
And you're invited to sing with us.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. My closing words are by Adrian Rich from The Dream of a Common Language. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed, I have to cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. may we do so. Go in peace.